Hello and welcome back to my channel, Julep's Garden. I'm very excited to share this video with you. I'm going to be showing you how we created my dream kitchen garden. So step one was earlier this year, we had to cut down some trees that were growing really close to the house and some branches in order to allow a little bit of sunlight into the area. Once we had the trees come down, I started planning what type of kitchen garden I wanted. And I fell in love with the French potager type garden where you can walk into it and be surrounded with your garden beds. My problem was that our property is not a perfect square or rectangle. It's a bit like a pizza slice going from smaller to wider in the back, so I had to account for that in the dimensions of my design. What I ended up doing was making the beds in the back a little bit bigger and the beds towards the front a little bit smaller to kind of follow the same layout of my property. As you can see here, the beds are 6 by 8, the bigger ones, and then the smaller ones are 6 by 5 feet. I sent these dimensions to a friend who's a carpenter who would be doing this project for us, and then I also mapped it out so he would know exactly where I wanted the beds placed. Hello, good morning. I'm so excited today because today is the day that I'm gonna get my raised garden beds made. So I'm just waiting for a friend who's gonna build them. He should be here in a few minutes. I think he's here. And unfortunately, I had to leave to work, but when I got back, he had made so much progress already. Guys, look how beautiful. I just got home. It's like 2:30 and they're looking so great. Look at this. It feels so pretty. So this is what they're looking like from up here. He's about 3/4 of the way done, but he had to go get more material. He says that it's the first time he does something like this, but they look really nice and professional, so definitely doesn't seem like it's his first time. So excited. It's even more beautiful than I imagined. So unfortunately, it is coming down hard, so this will have to be on pause until Sunday. He said he can come back, so not too far from now. If the rain lets up tomorrow, I might start filling them. But they are so beautiful. Look at that. And when he came back, I did ask if I could film him. And so just in case maybe one of you guys are a little bit better with woodworking and want to make your own, I hope this gives you some ideas. And so this was the first time he did a project like this, and so our total ended up being $1,000 with the material included. And I did end up choosing pressure treated wood because we were using pine, and so that's why I chose the pressure treated, so it'll last just a little bit longer. And I do plan on staining them and trying to do my best to upkeep them and preserve them for as long as possible. But I'm not sure if this is an exceptional price for us since we're, friends. But I do think that maybe if you find a carpenter or somebody who is good at these things, you might be able to get a better price than obviously going for a big company. And so for the next step was lining the interior of the beds. All I did was go to Lowe's and I got a plastic liner, and then I found these little push pin looking pins, and I believe they're used for furniture, but they were so easy to use to push the liner into the beds. Now, I was so excited. As soon as I finished lining one bed, I decided to start trying to put some soil in it. This is soil I had left over from previous projects, and this is 50% topsoil, 50% compost. Okay, so I was filling up the beds when I remembered that I have to do a few things before I put all the soil in. So I am gonna have some arch trellises here, and I want them pretty deep because I don't want them to be extremely high. So I decided to kind of stop there as far as the soil goes on this edge. And then I remembered that I also have to install my drip, which I got too excited. So I was still able though to get in here and dig out a little hole, as you can see here. And I already ran the drip. However, I'm gonna go tomorrow and get some elbows for it because, you know, I don't want it to bend and then cut off the supply, because ideally I would like it running straight up. So I'm gonna need an elbow before I can cover up this side of the soil. So what I'm gonna do is just continue lining these two beds. So because our property is slightly on a slope also, the beds in the back were also a lot deeper than I had anticipated. So the front beds were at a height about 18 inches and the back beds ended up being close to about 28 to almost 30 inches. So I definitely was going to need some help filling these. So I went around the property and I found some old pieces of wood that had been from previous branches that had fallen. I also asked my neighbor, he gave me some logs of wood. So I used that to kind of put an initial layer on the bottom. I was a little nervous of putting these logs of wood because I did not want to introduce termites into the beds. My husband kind of told me what to look for, so I did quick little inspection on the logs. However, I felt that the pros outweighed the cons, since as these start to decay, it would bring a lot of nutrients to the soil. So I put the biggest logs on the bottom and slowly increased in the size of the branches into the leafy matter. I tried to make it as small as possible so it wouldn't just fill the bed completely. So this is what it looks like once I was finished. We also added some grass clippings. However, a word of caution, if your beds are not this deep, I would be careful with how much or how high to fill them with the debris. You want enough soil for the roots of your plants. I believe I've read tomatoes need at least 15 inches of soil, so I would not fill up my bed completely to the top with the branches or debris, since you want enough soil for those roots to grow nice and healthy. And here I'm adding some wood chips that we had left over from the tree cutting. And as I was working, the trellises arrived, so of course I had to stop immediately and start to build these. I was so excited to see what they would look like. And as you can see here, I moved my little bistro table that I had at another part of my garden into the center. I'm still debating and trying to decide exactly what I'm going to keep in the center. I've thought about maybe a fountain. I've thought about maybe more cut flowers, or just a little coffee, spot to drink my coffee in the morning. So if you have any ideas, make sure you let me know. But here I am struggling to carry this trellis over because I could not wait for my husband to arrive. I was so happy with how this trellis ended up looking. This was actually my second option. I had already found a trellis that I loved, and I had designed the space between my beds to fit that first trellis that I had found. But when I got home, after he had started building, he had kind of added space between the beds, and it was going to be a few inches too wide for the trellis that I had chosen. So I had to start researching. I did not want to spend too much on them, so these ended up being $100 each. So I did get two, one for the front and one for the back, and in the end I was still very happy with this one. Now that I had the trellis, I could continue adding my soil. I would say filling them with soil is one of the hardest aspects, so I tried to break up this job into small little sections and did, a bed here, half a bed there, as I had the energy, since at this moment my husband wasn't able to help me, and I was just simply trying to add the leftover soil we had from the previous project. I believe that what I used from the leftover project was about 2 cubic yards of soil, and then I had to order another 6 cubic yards to fill the rest of the beds, and they were about $25 per cubic yard, so $45 for delivery. I ended up spending around $250 for all the soil, and again, this is 50% topsoil, 50% compost. Okay, so it's official. The soil has arrived. And just wanted to show you guys, I had started to put some wood chips in here. This is what it's looking like. This is kind of the level we're starting at back here. We have a special guest who just arrived. Look who it is. Hello. Welcome. My sweet dad drove over an hour to come help us, so it wouldn't take us forever to fill my beds with soil. As I started working on that, I quickly tried to finish at least routing my distribution tubing for my irrigation through the bottom of the beds before they put in the soil. So after all that, we finally finished. This was such an accomplishment. We did have some soil left over, so as you can see, they're kind of putting it under the house there. I know that these beds will go down once the soil compacts a little bit, so that way we have some extra one to fill them in later. And of course, silly me, as soon as we finish filling the beds with soil, what do I remember? That I did not make the second trellis to put in before we put the soil. So here I am in a panic trying to put it together, even though it was going to be a lot harder to put into the soil now. And on another day, we tried to insert it. We were all just too tired that day, so we had to kind of dig up the soil a little bit, and with some extra elbow grease, we were able to put in the second trellis. And man, what a great feeling to see it coming together from my vision into reality. This was so exciting. Okay, so I want to show you guys a little bit about my irrigation. I've shown before in a previous video how I do it, but I'll show it again just in case. Okay, so this is everything I ordered, and I do have my 1/2 inch thicker tubing. It's called a distribution tubing, and I'll show you that in a second. I have it out towards the back. So you're gonna need the distribution tubing, which is 1/2 inch, and then this is the drip line, so that will connect to this. This has little emitters. This one has them every 6 inches. So these are the connectors for the thicker distribution tubing. We have some elbows here for right angles. These are called, I think, couplings or couplings, and it connects just 2 pieces together. And then we have a T, just wherever you need it to go in different directions, you get what you need accordingly. I also got some of these. I'm going to put one of these in each bed so that I can control if I want the water on or not in each raised bed. You kind of just have to imagine the way it's going to lay out and order how much you need of each. I know that can be a little overwhelming, but it is a lot more affordable. I didn't go into too much detail because I have shown this in previous videos, but this is the layout I came up with. And after waiting and waiting, it was finally planting day. I was so excited. I had kind of a little collection of plants that I had been accumulating, kind of an expectation of my beds being ready. So I had some tomato plants that had gotten a little bit bigger in the waiting process. And then I had a lot smaller packs of different herbs and vegetables. The way I tried to lay it out was all my flowers and herbs around the sides. I got lots of chives. Those are supposed to be really good for protecting against pests, and they have beautiful blooms that are edible, so I'm excited about those. I got some marigolds, some thyme, some parsley. And I made sure to plant each plant with biotone since that really helps the roots get established, and we're already about a month behind planting season here in North Carolina. And just a few weeks later, and this is what it's looking like today. So the project is still not complete. I still need to put gravel around everything and make an edge around the kitchen garden. However, it is getting very hot and summer is a busy time, so I think we're gonna wait till more closer to fall time to do that second part of this project. But meanwhile, I am already enjoying the fruits of my labor. Planted cherry tomatoes, Roma tomatoes, we have bell peppers, we have eggplant, we have squash, we have jalapenos, we have serranos. Got to plant a lot of different things, so I'm really excited. I'll definitely keep you guys posted on how everything is growing and when I get around to adding the gravel. Again, if you guys have ideas for what to put in the center here, I put these little chairs. I'm still testing and kind of searching to see what ultimately I'll put in here. And here you can kind of get an idea of how my irrigation is set up. So I have the distribution tubing coming out this way. I will eventually bury this and it will be covered with gravel also. And so it continues here where I put one of these tees and it splits off into the bed. It goes underneath where I have a little elbow, comes up through the bed. I added the little valve so I can turn on and off each bed according to the water needs. And then I have the little emitters coming out. I did 4 total, and it kind of is spaced equally throughout the bed, and it runs all the way down and follows the angle of the bed. Okay guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. It's so nice to be able to share my garden with you guys. I really appreciate you. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye!